Welcome to the Creating Wealth Simplified podcast. My name is Lauren Wells, here with my co-host, Chris Seveney. We're committed to providing you with the knowledge required to build wealth through real estate investing. Tired of consuming content about real estate? Stuck in analysis paralysis? Ready to do your first deal? As a member of our community, you will learn how to go from consuming content to taking that first step into the world of real estate investing. Our show is not about getting rich quick, but about providing you with the knowledge you need to take action. Join us as we speak with experienced investors who share action tips on how to escape the corporate world, start a thriving side hustle in the world of real estate, and go beyond your W-2 or 401k.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Creating Wealth Simplified podcast. I am your host, Chris Seveney, along with our co-host, Lauren Wells. And today we have a special guest. Today we have one of our borrowers for one of our loans who we've worked out an arrangement with. So we wanted to have him come on, share the story of how we worked out from a borrower's perspective of working with borrowers to create loan modifications for them to keep them in their properties. So Josh, how are you today?
I'm good, Chris. How are you?
I'm good. And Lauren, how are you today?
I'm good. Happy to be here. And, I'm excited, Josh. Thank you so much again for joining us. And really, I think it'll be really great for people listening to kind of hear how we work with, our borrowers. So thanks for kind of coming and telling your story of working with us and what your experience has been like.
So let's go back a little bit in time, Josh, and can you tell us, approximately when you originally bought the property?
I want to say it was in about February of 2012.
Okay, so just over about 10 years. So you've been in there, basically in the property for 10 years. And when you acquired the property, what type of condition was it in?
I knew I was buying a fixer-upper.
Okay.
For the price and the size of the land layout and everything like that, I seen it as an investment opportunity for myself. But I mean, it wasn't beyond livable. It was still very functional. One of the things that really upset me when I first purchased the property was I was told it had well water, which it does, but I do not own the well. I have to purchase my well water.
I was going to say, when you acquired the property, who, were you buying it for just yourself, or do you have family? What's when back then, what was your situation?
Then it was just me, my wife, and our oldest two daughters at the time. And over time or whatever, we've had two more kids, and now it's me, her, and 4 babies.
Wow, I only have 2 kids, and I feel like I don't stop ever. You are a brave man.
Me nor her. We neither one of us stop. So it's constantly run.
Do you recall how much you paid for the property originally?
Originally, I want to say it was somewhere around the $59,000 area.
Okay.
And after discussing with them about the well issue and everything like that, I believe it brought it down just a little bit. Not a lot, but it did come down a little bit.
Okay. And by the way, Josh, do you mind sharing, what do you do for work?
I am a fire sprinkler service technician. I pretty much do everything from the underground to the inspector's test, main drain. If it's pipe and it breaks, I fix it.
So for our listeners who aren't familiar with what that is, because that's not something typically seen in a residential component, in commercial buildings, the sprinkler systems that are in those buildings, of course, is all piping. And that piping comes from water, of course, pressurized from the street into the building and gets through the whole system with fire pumps and lots of bells and whistles. But basically, that's what Josh does, is he installs those systems for a company. So that's cool. So I'm coming from my background, I'm pretty familiar with a lot of that, working for a general contractor back in a lifetime ago. So now, one question I wanted to ask you, Josh, too, was you bought the property 10 years ago. Did you know at the time, what a land contract was?
Honestly, Chris, I did not. I was 20 years old, and they said for sale by owner, and gave a amount to put down, and that's what I did. And I met with some people, and we signed a couple of papers, and I was under the impression I was buying my first home.
So for people listening, a land contract actually they're very common. And what a land contract is, it's similar to like when you buy a car. In the sense, when you buy a car and you finance it, the title to the car is not in your name. It's in, I'm just going to use Honda as an example. You own the car, you have to take care of it. You're responsible for it. You pay the taxes on it, but the title is in Honda's name. On a land contract, it's the same thing, but when it's a property, it's very different because, and we'll talk about some of the complexities, but like Josh mentioned, his name's not on title to the property. So if you look in public records for the deed, his name does not show up. It's the company that wrote that contract. And a lot of times in many states, those are used because if a borrower does default, in many states, it's easier for a lender to take that property back where it's an eviction versus a foreclosure process. But also, and Josh just mentioned it, I would say the borrowers we speak with, probably 90% of them were not aware of it was a land contract. It's more just like in Josh's situation. Hey, I'm thinking I'm buying this house. Somebody tells me to sign the papers. I've bought a house before. Lauren, I know you've bought a house. How many people have actually gone through all the papers that they've actually and read every single line of the contract? You have a title company or someone's there just says sign this and you want to get out of there as fast as possible because you got to pick up your kid or do something. Is typically what happens. So let me ask you a few questions. With the land contract, did you try and get insurance on the property?
I've tried multiple times to get insurance on it, and it was just, for one, with it being a modular or a manufactured home double wide, it's harder to get people to insure 30, 40 plus year old manufactured home. And then on top of that, you're like, my whole thing was, okay, well, they want to see paperwork and this, that, and the other. And, I guess they seen something I didn't see at the time. And I didn't find until recently, that, my name's not nowhere on this place. And that was through my bank that I found that was able to find that stuff out.
Yeah. So typically in these instances for people listening, because Josh's name's not on the deed, he's not allowed to get insurance for the property. It's a responsibility of the lender. But if you actually read the contract's going to say Josh is responsible for insurance, but it's something an obligation that he can't even complete because in these instances, no insurance company will give him the insurance because they look at the recorded deed and says, hey, this is not in your name, so you can't get the insurance.
Josh, do you know how many times your loan was sold from like one investor to another, one lender to another?
Well, that was also brought up here recently from my bank because I was dealing with a different property management group, and they had said that they weren't going to be taking the payments no more, and that I was going to have to pay another property management group. And so that's whenever I said, I'm just going to go to my bank and just see what I can do to get this place under wraps, make one payment to one person, and, not have to worry about this bouncing around thing because I've been bounced around several times. And in that process, especially now more than probably ever with inflation the way it is, you've got certain bill money set to the side, well, then you realize, well, we need to get some groceries. Well, that money, it ends up twiddling away. And that was when my bank informed me, listen, you got some issues going on here. Your name's not on the deed. This place has been sold, I want to say right around 5 times. And for to different people. And, you got some issues going on. If you're saying what you've been buying this place for 10 years, it's not showing it.
Tell me a little bit about that. Like, you're recently, behind on your mortgage, and can you share kind of your personal story there?
I mean, it wasn't nothing horrific or nothing like that. It was just everyday, day-to-day life. And I think we had a floor starting to sink in a little bit in the kitchen, and I had took bill money to repair that kitchen floor, and once you miss that bill, and then you get late fees and everything like that piling up on you, and then you're playing catch up with a car payment and buying groceries. And my wife both were pretty fortunate. About mid-year of last year, we both got a decent raise, and I had worked it out with the previous property management group to pay a little bit more every week. That way, by the end of the year, I was coming out in January on a fresh slate. And then in October, whenever I found all the information out and I was already behind, the new mortgage company, they really didn't want to mess with me too much. I guess I would say, because, hey, I am behind. You probably need to talk to, this person, see what we can do. And I believe that's when we started doing some research and figured out, Chris, was probably one of the persons I needed to talk to.
What was your thought? Like, and just curious, it's 10 years and you go to your bank and the bank's like, hey, you don't own this property. And, going back and having that conversation, with your wife and stuff, your heart must have probably dropped and like, oh my God, what's going on?
Several different kind of feelings there. I mean, I was angry, upset, nervous, because I'm looking at a place where I've been investing in for 10 years, and it's just like it's being sold left and right out from underneath me. And at the time I hadn't spoke with you or nothing like that, and so I'm like, okay, am I about to get scammed? That was the first thought that came to my mind was, am I getting scammed? And am I throwing my money in the drain? Yeah. So immediately I was just like, okay, I need to start building a bird's nest. I need to start making a plan B. I got 4 kids. I can't depend on nobody else to take care of them. So I gradually started just trying to figure out what I was going to do, and I looked into other options, and I actually came up with a plan B. And then me and Chris, we actually spoke on the phone and began talking and started developing a relationship there. And Chris was very, very helpful as far as filling me in with the details and basically really reassuring me that, listen, this is not a scam. We can make this right, but there's some things you got to do on your end to make it right as well.
Prior to having conversations, with me and, conversations that we've had, were you successful at all in trying to reach or speak to some of the other companies, or did they, work with you, or were they kind of just like, let me look into it and we'll get back to you? Just curious how your dealings were with some of the prior people were.
Well, I had dealt with 3 prior property management groups. As far as investors in general, I never dealt with them. I never spoke to them. I didn't even know none of their names. They had me do everything through their property management group. So as far as the owner themselves, I would say they were probably absolutely zero help. I mean, now their property management groups, they helped, or they at least called whenever it was time to collect some money.
Do you have a question, Lauren?
No, I just was gonna say, I imagine that was super frustrating. And I think, something that's important to note is like what you said, it wasn't one big thing that really, caused you to get behind on your mortgage. It was just day-to-day living. And I think that there's a lot of people that'll resonate with. So again, thank you for kind of sharing that it's it's not always this, big catastrophic event. Sometimes it's just cost of living, rising costs, and you know, the house had a water leak when there was a storm, or like you said, your floors. So um, I'm glad that we were able to work with you and that you ended up, being one of our borrowers, because it's been a pleasure to have that open communication. I think that's something that, like we started out at the beginning saying of this whole thing, like this whole, fund in this industry and how we do things a little differently is like, we like to have those conversations with people. So, I mean, I'm glad that, again, that you guys were all able to connect.
Yeah, and well, add to that too is for everybody is the resolution that we came up with. One of the major components that as part of I'll call it in discussion. What was one of the most important things to Josh was, hey, how can I get my name on this property? And that's something that was very important to him. So that was one, he made that a priority. So that was for us as part of working with him. It's like, okay, how can we do that? And that's what we are, we're achieving is getting his, Josh's name on this property. So he's now on the deed and still having, a mortgage and note. So now he can go to his bank, get insurance, which might be a little bit cheaper than the insurance that's on the property now, or, go to his bank and see if he can get a better rate to refinance the loan. And work with him on some of those, that money that was, a little bit behind, and have Josh come up with, a payment to work. So it was kind of a, a partnership of, hey, I know, I need you to do this and I can do that for you. And I think it worked out well. Would you agree, Josh?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like I say, I mean, it felt like there was a boulder lifted off of my back, just by the communication we carried for the last couple of weeks here. And when you pay on a place for 10 years and then you look at it and it's like, okay, am I about to lose this place? And then, you talk to somebody like, listen, we can help you. We can put your name on the deed. We can definitely assist you, and part of that is, okay, well, we did our research. We need to get a few dollars from you. And it was plainly stated, listen, this is not no extra fees. This is not no extra charges towards you. This is just to bring you current, bring you closer to where you need to be. And we'll do everything we can to help you. And, just by knowing that little bit of information there, it's like 1,000 pounds lifted off your back.
Yeah, because I can only imagine the stress of during that time, like you mentioned, with your family and having 4 children and stuff. Just the thought of not knowing is probably, and for anyone who's ever had something like that or a medical condition, like so doctors like, hey, I need you to come in, and that time of waiting and not knowing is so stressful. I can only imagine. So I'm just glad that we were able to connect and basically work on a resolution that was a win-win for both parties. So Lauren, any final thoughts before we wrap up? Oh, go ahead, Josh. Sorry.
No, I was just going to agree with you. Absolutely. I mean, I've never experienced, and of course, my wife, she's very good with computers and stuff like that. You dig around, do some research, and we started digging into you a little bit, and it's like, okay, well, this dude seems pretty legit. I mean,
I'm like,
yeah, got his picture, on his email and everything, okay, look, he's obviously not got nothing to hide. He's not out here trying to scam people or nothing like that. And my wife, she's like a secret detective when it comes to phones and computers and stuff like that. And I got the calluses on my hands. I don't mess with them things. Them things get me in trouble.
Oh, I love that. I mean, and it's so easy today, especially in today's world, you like to definitely do your research and know that, you're talking to someone who is legit, so to speak. And so I'm glad your wife did her research and found us to be like A-OK, stamp of approval. And again, glad we were happy we were able to work with you.
Oh, absolutely. And Chris, I do apologize. My wife, she might have stalked you a little bit and dug you. It was all in good faith. I promise. It wasn't nothing personal.
No, I'm actually, I don't take offense at it at all. And, I'll be honest, the business we're in, we do a lot of research. Even, like when we buy our loans and we're looking at buying the loan on your property. Trust me, we did research on you as well to look at, okay, is this someone that we think we could work with on that loan and somebody we think we could help? So we probably did just as much on you as well. So, but no, that's all good. So.
And, just something to be said, is that, whenever you go dig around on people like that, it's like, okay, well, this guy, he's doing pretty good for himself, so, but really down straight, just man to man, speaking to you on the phone, even podcast aside, just emailing back and forth, talking on the phone, you would never know, that you're probably in the position that you're in now. You're very humble. I mean, and humble, I mean, it goes so long. I mean, so far with me personally, just someone being humble and saying, okay, listen, I've been there, I understand, listen, we can help each other out here, and it's just like, it was more like just having a conversation with somebody, not somebody saying, hey, listen, you're going to give me this, or this is going to be the consequence. It's saying, listen, if you can do this, then we can do this. We can work as a team here. And, and that was just the biggest thing with me.
Yeah. And I mean, one, thank you for, giving Chris an ego right now. He's like,
yes, thank you, Josh.
But also, I think that's really what it's about for us as well. Like, if someone is willing to, have a conversation with us and, like you said, person to person, not like you do this or else, like where it's just an actual working together relationship for the benefit of both parties, that's really what it's about. And it's a win-win for everyone. So I love that. Great feedback.
I definitely appreciate y'all bringing me on here, and that way even more people could understand that people ain't just out here just to get you. That there's still a few good people left out here, and people are wanting to help you. People want to help you. People want to see you succeed, and I'm very, very fortunate to be at a company to where I can walk in and say, hey, listen, I'm coming up short. Is there something we can do? And all my company, without a bat of an eye says, well, what do you need? And, that helped out tremendously. And it's been a real good situation here for the last few months. And I see hopefully a lot better 23 than a 22.
Well, Josh, I want to thank you for, coming on and chatting with us today. It's a pleasure speaking with you again. We've had many conversations. Lauren, any final comments or thoughts before we wrap up?
No, just like to echo kind of what Chris said. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing kind of your story, the background of, your purchase of the property, and then kind of just the whole journey of how you got from where you were to where you are today and our small role in it. Again, I think it will be really awesome for our listeners to hear that, like you said, there are still people that are good in this world. Not everyone is out to get you, even though it might seem like that today, but I'll wrap it up. Thank you guys so much for joining us today on this episode of the CWS podcast. If you enjoyed the show, share it with a friend or leave us a review. Thank you, everyone. Until next time.
Thank you for joining Lauren and I on this episode of the Creating Wealth Simplified podcast.
Each week, we bring you expert education, experience, and information in a digestible format to help you identify investment opportunities so you can build wealth through real estate and take action toward your financial goals. Enjoy the show, share with a friend, or subscribe to the show and leave us a review.